Khurshid, Congress leader. Priyanka Chaturvedi, Shiv Sena MP and former Congress leader. Prithviraj Chavan is member of G23. Really appreciate your time. Mr. Khurshid, I'm going to begin with you. We have seen many exit letters, but this one certainly seems to be most damaging to the Congress party, given that it is coming from an ultimate insider that Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad was, with whom you have worked for good 40 years. Your first thought on this letter?
Gosh, I think if it's something that had to happen and has happened, it's just best to get on and not dwell upon this letter. When somebody takes a decision that makes them leave a path that they have treaded for 40 years or 50 years, then you need to spruce up your reasons to sound convincing, and perhaps that's what has happened. He may have justification for saying something or not saying it, but I don't think that we should now dwell too long on it, and I don't think that there is much that we can do about it, and therefore I think it's just best to just simply say goodbye.
Okay, you're saying goodbye to him. Prithviraj Chavan, he was a member of G23, and as a member of G23, did this resignation of Mr. Azad come as a surprise to you?
Well, I'm personally pained. It's very unfortunate. We had got together a couple of years back. We introspected about the affairs of the Congress party, the repeated defeats in both Lok Sabha elections, and almost after Lok Sabha election, almost 40 assembly elections we won. Whatever elections we got elected in, we lost 40 elections, but some elections we won, and there also we could not form the government like in Goa. So we're all concerned about happening in the Congress party. It was a consensus in that group, which you people, the media called G23. It was just 23 of us, senior members, former union ministers, former working committee members, former chief ministers. We wrote a letter because we could not get a personal appointment for over a month. She was not well, there was COVID, and we could understand that. And so we thought at least the leadership should know what we feel. We're all senior members. And so we wrote a letter, which was supposed to be a confidential letter. But unfortunately, somebody leaked it. And then we branded as rebels and asking questions and all that thing. All we had asked for three simple things. The Congress party should be led by somebody full-time. That secondly, there should be introspection why we lost, and that there should be elections to all organs of the Congress party as per the Congress constitution. A couple of months, 4 or 5 months later, Mrs. Gandhi did give us an audience. We had a 5-hour-long meeting. And by and large, agreed with all of whatever we had said. That yes, there'll be elections of the Congress party. Yes, there'll be Chintan Shibir, and there'll be more frequent meetings, which didn't happen. But both the promises she fulfilled. There was a Chintan Shibir, there was a Shibir, and the elections are on. Unfortunately, the Shibir got turned from a Chintan Shibir to a Nava Sankalpa Shibir. That means don't ask questions, let's look at the future. So be it. Udaipur, all of us met after 2 years. National leadership met, and there was some hope that things will happen. And elections are on. So I can't fault the Congress party leadership for that. Elections are on. But whether elections will be taken to the logical conclusion, which means whether all the organs, the parliamentary board, the parliamentary board, the working committee, and election committee, will there be elections for all these bodies? These elections have not been held for 24 years.
That's right.
So if you're going to accuse Mr. Modi of being dictatorial, that he's ushered in a police state, there is undeclared emergency, then do you have a right to accuse him of dictatorship? Our own party is not functioning democratically. This is all we're done. And unfortunately, there is a coterie, there's a group which kept on blaming us.
Okay, since you speak about the coterie, I'm going to ask you this question. Ghulam Nabi Azad has left. Kapil Sibal exited the Congress a month ago. Anand Sharma could be on his way out too. What remains of this group of G23?
Well, we'll continue to fight to the last man. There are 20 of us still there. I mean, many of them pleaded with us to leave the party. That was not acceptable. After all, nobody else can take on Mr. Modi. And it's a historical responsibility of the Congress party to provide a viable, a credible alternative to Mr. Modi, because a regional party cannot do that. But maybe Congress party alone cannot defeat Mr. Modi today. But if Congress party was to lead a broad alliance of all the opposition parties, leave our petty differences along, egos along, and fight the election, maybe you don't have to declare a prime ministerial candidate. Mr. Jayaprakash Narayan did not declare a prime ministerial candidate. Still he defeated Mrs. Gandhi. Maybe it is a Jayaprakash Narayan kind of moment has arrived. And responsibility for leading that alliance is Congress party, because no regional party can do it. All we are asking within the party is for those reforms. And those reforms will continue to ask for.
Okay. Mr. Chaturvedi, come in on this. Ghulam Nabi Azad says that Rahul Gandhi demolished the entire consultative mechanism. He has called him immature and childish as well. You have worked with Rahul Gandhi, but when you quit the Congress, there was no personal attack against Rahul Gandhi. You have been rather graceful in your exit. How are you looking at this letter of Ghulam Nabi Azad?
I think your question itself nails it, graceful and graceless. As far as this particular letter is concerned, everybody knew this was coming. Sooner or later, it was to happen. And since the first letter was written to Mrs. Gandhi, and then we saw the to and fro that was happening. But however, in hindsight, to blame one particular party president for functioning in a particular manner, which may or may not have had you in the same position that you've enjoyed over many years, does not mean that you can call him immature, childish. Must understand, for past 40 years, over 4 decades of being in governments, being minister, being the chief minister, in the top 5 organizational positions of a political party, I would want you to today, Maria ji, tell me one particular person that comes to your mind across political parties in India who've enjoyed seniority as well as senior ranks, not just the organization, but also in governments when Congress was in power, and you'd be able to name none. That speaks of the respect that he commanded over the years in the Congress party. It is a known fact that the Congress is seeing a massive churning. Many may disagree with new style of functioning, many may agree with the new style of functioning. But the point here is that everybody has got a chance to work. It is, when I used to be in the Congress party, at times I used to wonder that with these senior leaders not choosing to retire, I'm sorry to say this, and holding on to those top 5 positions all the time, would we youngsters ever be able to get a chance to prove ourselves in any position possible? So, yes, it is saddening to see the tone and tenor of the letter and accusing somebody in hindsight.
Mr. Khurshid, has Ghulam Nabi Azad shown mirror to the Congress, or has he betrayed the party? Because the jury is divided. Many think that the tone and tenor of the letter is almost similar to what other leaders have said in the past. And those who are presently in the Congress, they are saying that this is betrayal.
I just wonder, this is like people living a full life. And then somebody you've known all your life happens to pass away. Upon the demise, you don't think of being the next, and you don't think of how things will be when you pass away, etc. But that's how life is. That people line up, you reach a top, and then you slide down, or just generally fade away. These things happen, and when these are all exaggerated and escalated by events which are adverse events that are going against the interests and the success of your organization and your party, then all these things get amplified. And I think we just have to take them in our stride. It's deeply disappointing. It's deeply disappointing somebody that you worked with for such a long time takes such a decision.